France's National Data Protection Commission, known as CNIL, concluded that Google is in breach of the EU's online privacy laws by failing to explain its data collection policies properly and also by failing to get user consent to process their data. That's used for ad personalization across all of their platforms. Now, Google will have to pay about $57 million in fines. Joining me now to discuss, investigative journalist Ben Swann. Hey there, Ben. So, unlike the U.S., France has some strict data collection laws. Now, this $57 million fine, it's just a teeny tiny fraction of Google's annual revenues, as we know. So will this really help change the company's ways?
Yeah, I think it will not change anything. But let's talk about how teeny tiny of a fine this is. The revenues for Google in 2018 for the first 3 months were $31.2 billion. That's for the first 3 months of the year. So if you keep that average over the course of the year, that means they did about $12.4 billion. $57 million would be less than 0.5%. Less than 0.5% is the fine that they're facing. So it's almost like this. Somebody comes into your house, they rob you, they take everything you have, and then you say, well, the court said you had to give back that teacup. And they said, okay, here's the teacup back. What's going to prevent them from coming back and robbing the next house and the next house? It sounds like they're doing awfully well to continue to do what they're doing if they only have to serve fines of this tiny amount.
And you know, Ben, consumer groups in Europe have also accused Google, separately from this particular violation, accused them of deceptive practices in the way of location tracking. Talk to us a bit about the dangers of Google's constant ability to track us based on our phone location.
Well, look, it's a huge problem, and part of the problem is that Google makes you think that you have the ability and have the option to opt out of those tracking services. And so many consumers are duped into believing that if they turn off location services or they deny permissions to certain applications, that they won't be tracked anymore. And of course, we know that's absolutely not true, that Google is constantly tracking us. Even when those location services are turned off, they're still running. And so this is a problem, not because of the fallacied argument, and I think it is a fallacied argument, that, hey, you know, you don't have anything to worry about if you're not doing anything wrong. It comes back to the right to privacy. Do you have a right to privacy? And do you have a right to tell a company, stop tracking me at this point? And do they have an obligation to honor that request?
And Ben, on that note, though, can we agree that in order to have all of these modern day conveniences, you know, such as, I don't know, a restaurant recommendation, et cetera, based on wherever you're standing at that moment with your phone, it comes with the level of relinquishment of some of this privacy that we're just talking about, right? So is there like a no middle ground for us to keep our privacy somehow and still have those conveniences?
Well, I think there is a middle ground, and that middle ground is called permission, right? As a user, if I say I want to use Google Maps because I want to find a pizza place near me, this actually happened recently. My family and I were in Florida and we're looking for a pizza place. We don't know where anything is, and so we're searching for pizza places and we're trusting in that, right? So we're opting into the service at that point, and we're saying to Google, at this point, we give you permission to know where we are and what we're looking for, and yes, to sell us stuff, to tell us these are the places you should go. But the problem is that Google believes, or seems to believe, that you have no right at any point to say no, that there's no right for you to say, at this point, stop tracking me, stop looking at where I'm going, stop watching what I'm buying. I think it comes down to a voluntary system. Everyone should have the right to choose to opt in. The problem is Google doesn't think you have the right to opt out.
Well, now, France, Ben, has CNIL looking out for the French citizens. What do we have here in America that could hold these tech giants like Google accountable?
I don't think we have anything right now. And part of the reason for that is because these tech giants and their lobbyists work very hard to prevent that from happening. But I actually think there's more to it than that, right? I don't think it's simply that our government does not care, and so they don't want to create checks and balances for tech companies. I think our government likes what these tech companies are doing. Consider the fact that we don't have to have all of our location services, activities, browsing histories, phone calls and text messages being cataloged by the government, as in the book like 1984, right, where the government controls everything. In this case, they've kind of outsourced it, and tech companies do it for them and catalog it and keep it and hold it, and then the government can just get it from them. So I actually think that our government prefers this method where they don't have to employ all these people and the technology is being run in the private sector but is available to them whenever they want it.
And real briefly, Ben, on that note of privacy, the right to be forgotten, another thing that the EU offers that Americans don't have the option of. So for privacy fans, this is a win, but this could also backfire. It can be a mode for censorship or even worse, for example, say hiding a bad doctor's history, for example. Your thoughts on that?
Well, look, the right to be forgotten is hundreds of years old. It goes back to a time in France when criminals said we have the right to be able to go someplace and not have our history follow us. Yes, it could. I guess you could say it could be used for censorship, but at the same time, it doesn't prevent you from being in a public place and people knowing things about you. What it does say is that you don't have the right to constantly have every bit of your information, personal information, out in the public sphere. And I think that's fair. And I think that if you're searching for a doctor and you know they are in the public spectrum, you have the right to be able to go through and do your due diligence to find out what you can. But I don't think privacy issues really play into that.
Yeah, we're a long ways away from that anyhow. As always, thank you for chiming in on this subject today. Ben Swann.
Thanks, Manila.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.